So today's project is the P-trap. This P-trap is coming down from our shower, and because this property was originally a summer house only, all this is all outdoors. So as you can see, I had my contractors come in and wrap it with insulation. Also, this little orange box here is the box for the heat tape, which runs the entire length of the drain pipe. But the main thing I'm concerned about right now is the water that will stay in the P-trap and get exposed to the cold temperatures. Currently it's about 15 degrees out here. What I'm going to try to do is build a insulated box around this. It already has some insulation, this yellow stuff, but it's not quite cutting the mustard when it gets down to the really cold temperatures. So here's a simplified view of our house. You can see the pink area is the warm air and the blue area is the cold air. There's our P-trap with the water inside of it. And you can also see this little thin blue line is representing the amount of water that might be in the rest of this pipe. So the plan is to build a box around the P-trap area, and we're going to build it out of foam board insulation, and it'll look something like this. And then the other thing that we're going to do is just basically throw a bunch of sensors around this thing. So these are temperature sensors here and here. We'll have one inside the box. There's already another one wrapped up in that yellow insulation. We'll have another one that's outside, just measuring outdoor air temperature. And then finally, we'll have a temperature probe sensor. And spoiler alert, that is going to be the sensor that is really quite helpful in understanding if this thing is all working. So with that, let's get back to the rest of the project. So first step is to dig out all of this extra soil here so I can just get at this area a lot easier. As you can see, it's a little cramped in here. Okay, because this pipe is already covered in insulation, I don't know the exact thickness of this pipe. So what I'm going to use is this pretty cool little tool I picked up a while ago. It's a contour gauge. And basically, you can use it for a bunch of different stuff. You push into it, and you can wrap around all sorts of weird, funky shapes. And then you can then take your measurement of whatever that shape is. So I'm going to use it for the pipe right now. Next, I'm going to try to trace a rough outline of the general shape of this guy with this nub here and this extra space here on this board. Okay, now we have our outlined P-trap, and what I want to do is use this foam board insulation. It's about 1.5 inches thick, and I want to basically make a sandwich with the P-trap as the meat. So we have a layer of insulation. Then we have the P-trap, and then we'd have another layer of insulation like roughly here, and then we'd fill the gap here with more foam board, and then there'll be two sides of the sandwich which will just wrap around the whole P-trap. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I look like a maniac. Okay, so after a few miscuts, we finally got a working box here. Doesn't really look attractive, but I think it's going to do a pretty good job. So just to recap, this is the box. In here is where the P-trap will live. We're going to cut a hole in the top. Whoops. We are going to cut a hole here in the top for the vertical part of the P-trap. It's going to do its thing, and then we're going to cut another hole here in the side for the horizontal part of the P-trap to come out. Okay, so here I am just putting some nails into the sides of the foam board to keep the box together. I could have used some sort of adhesive or something, but I wasn't actually really sure if this thing was going to work yet, so I wanted something that was a bit less permanent. And here I'm cutting out the holes in the foam board for the pipes going in and the pipes going out. I'm using a utility blade here, which is really not a great tool for this because the blade isn't long enough to go through the whole 2 inches of foam board. So we're back under the house again, which is fun. I've got my insulated box here with holes cut out for the pipe coming in from the top and the pipe going outside. We're going to try to put this back behind this thing, come at it from the back, slide it on, see if the front cover will fit, see if the whole thing fits, see if any of this is doing anything at all. Okay, so it looks like it will fit. I think the only problem is this gap here where the pipe and the rafter are really close. We kind of knew that was going to happen anyways, so I'm just going to try to shave off a little bit of that, see if we can just squeeze it right in there. Oh man, that's kind of working a little bit. Oh my god, it's kind of like amazing, right? Okay, so we did a dry fit. Actually went surprisingly well. The holes are basically in the right spots. One small issue is this piece is a little wiggly, so I'm going to put a few more nails in here. Alright, so we're back underneath the house. So exciting. So now we're going to put in our little custom-made little wedges here. Which is going to go just like that. And can you even believe that? Like how nice that is? Wow. And let's find the other one. A little cramped down here, to be honest, in case that's not obvious. So yeah, that thing's sticking out too far. So I'm just going to make a little mark on it right here. And then we'll just cut off the excess here in the dungeon. Well, it fell apart a little bit, but I'm not sure I care anymore. One thing to add, I've got another one of these temperature sensors. This is from YoLink, and I have these. I have one actually inside of here. There's another one I just keep outside. I'll just keep it here on the ground somewhere. And this one I'm going to keep actually right in the box. So then I'll be able to see what the outside temperature is, what the temperature inside the box is, and then what the temperature is right up against this pipe inside the insulation. So I'll have 3 sensors, so I'll really get a sense of whether this box is working. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this spray insulation up in here best I can. So this front, I don't want to put it on permanently yet, otherwise I would put some spray foam insulation in all of these cracks and crevices and just seal it up and use it as basically as glue. But I don't want to do that yet because I'm not sure if this is going to work. So I'm going to just put some nails in here at the angle. I'm going to put this in here, put some nails up in here, and in the front here. And I think that's it's gonna hold it pretty tight. It won't be the most airtight thing in the world, but it'll be a lot better than it was, and it might be just enough to get us through. All right, I think it's time, considering it's dark now, to go inside. So after monitoring the temperature sensors for a few days, I noticed something interesting. The outdoor temperature was around 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And at the same time, the sensor in the bottom of the box was reading about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is great. If that's all the sensors we had, that would have been an amazing result. However, we also noticed that the sensor up here near the top of the box was reading 34 degrees Fahrenheit at the same time as this was reading 50 and this was reading 20. 34 is pretty close to freezing, so that's something that we wanted to address. And I think what might have been happening was that there's a draft coming in from the top here where the pipe meets the box. It might have not been perfectly sealed up. And so there was like a little bit of draft coming in and affecting that sensor and making it quite a bit colder than it otherwise would be. I've decided to try one more thing to figure out what's going on. So what we're doing today is I have a new sensor which has this probe on it, and this probe is made to go underwater. So what we're going to do is we're going to get actual reading of the water inside the P-trap. So I'm going to use my borescope to make sure that when I feed the probe down into the pipe that I'm really getting it all the way into the water. So we're going to send that down there now. So here's a quick look at what we're dealing with here. I've got the borescope down the pipe and also the probe line. So from the borescope you can see that the probe is just, here's the probe, and it's just barely got into the surface of the water. So I'm going to feed this down to get hopefully nice and deep. Okay, so the probe is in the P-trap underwater now. And so you can see a few sensors here. We've got that sensor, 47.8 degrees, is the sensor we added inside of the box. This sensor here that's reading 34 degrees is the one that's attached to the pipe and wrapped in a thin layer of insulation. And then this is the temperature outside, so it's 22 degrees outside. And then inside the actual water is reading 68 degrees, which is really good. That's not going to freeze anytime soon. I think this is a success. I think we can call that a win. And we'll leave the sensor in for a few weeks and see if we're still maintaining a nice 68 degrees of the water in the P-trap. And finally, for one of the finishing touches for the box, I just wrapped it with some of this tie-part tape that we had before it was being held together with just those nails, and I think adding the tape is going to give it a little bit more stability. Okay, so for the month of January, I measured the temperature outside, which is this blue line here, and I used the probe sensor to measure the water temperature inside the pipe, which is this red line here. So as you can see, for the month of January, this is New England, so we get some pretty cold temps, kind of hovering around 20 degrees. Lowest here looks like it was down maybe 8 or 9 degrees, and the highest is, 41 degrees or something like that. And so you can see the water in the pipe is staying really nice warm. It's starting here around 70. The lowest it gets is 40 on this really cold day. But otherwise, it's staying in a comfortable temperature zone, no risk of freezing here. So I think this is a really good indication that the box has worked, and yeah, quite excited about it. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks.